You got scarce resources and you got very little time. And you want to do what you're interested in. You shouldn't be, as I said before, there's no reason for somebody to have to be interdisciplinary. They have something they're interested in. So the biggest challenge is showing people that if they engage in those conversations, they get more out of them than they put into them. Then that has to both be true, right? And you've got to be able to make it happen, because it's not always true. So it's a huge challenge, because it's a blessing, of course, because the reason people are researchers is because they're really fabulous at something and they love it. Like, why beat them up to make them interdisciplinary? And this is why interdisciplinary activities have failed at so many institutions, because you think you can force people together and it's going to just produce synergies. So that's a number one challenge. The way to overcome that, and I've said this elsewhere, is to not force somebody to ask, everybody to ask the same questions. If your questions are really about ICE, then you should ask ICE questions. If your questions are about communities, then you should ask community questions. So that's okay. But what if the object that these researchers shared, I mean a material object, like a real thing, a material thing, like mosquitoes, or like wolves, or like elk, certain lakes. If you could share the lake as your problem, then you can convene an interdisciplinary conversation, and people will learn each other's languages over time without being forced to do it. So you have to make a space that is interesting, that makes people go, oh yeah, what's up with that lake? So that they can bring their own individual research and knowledge. The Nelson Institute should be repertory theater, so that the space is all set up and inviting and has lots of smart people around it, and they come in and they put on a show. And what that means is bring the community and say, what's on your mind? Oh, okay, well actually we've got a climate scientist who thinks about that, and here's somebody who's worked in that community for 20 years and they're in the anthropology department. And then they're in and they do something interesting, viable, probably lasting, but it doesn't have to be forever. They do something effective that helps people and that advances science.